What's up guys, today we're going to be doing a ship showcase video for the Draconis Expanse server. People have been asking for this one for a really long time, and I'm really excited to showcase some of the incredible builds that we have in the community over on Draconis Expanse. We're going to be going through a variety of sizes as well as functionality of different ships that people have made for the server. All of these ships have been made on the server and are in use on the server for the server, so they're real multiplayer grids made by real players. Let's jump right in with a grid that I think a lot of people will recognize. This is a recreation of the OPAS Tynan by Hatto2. Hatto is in my faction and I begged him to be able to showcase this grid. It's absolutely gorgeous, just a faithful recreation of a ship from the Expanse, the Tynan, of course, a hero ship in the series. Hatto is so good at greebling and using the block-based system that Space Engineers provides to really create unique shapes and an incredible profile overall. In terms of use, this ship is a very light frigate, could even be considered a corvette. It only has 2 PDCs. They are Martian PDCs though, so you know that probably counts for 3 or 4 of a belter PDC with advanced tracking systems, being able to shoot down better and faster torpedoes. One thing I love about this build is the front of the build. The front of the build is where there is the grappling arms for grabbing salvage of ships that have been destroyed or just salvage in general. And then also the hangar in the front where crew members can walk in and out and salvage the ship that they currently have grappled. Hatto has done a really good job of adding in weapons here, so we have some ramshackle belter torpedoes strapped to the bottom of the front of the ship, and of course these awesome lights that come from a mod that the server uses. The way he uses landing gears and also the way he uses just different little bits and bots of vanilla Space Engineers blocks to really build out the front of the ship is incredible. Stepping inside, you know, obviously you can see that the hangar is pretty small, not as big as it would probably be in the actual universe, but of course everything in Space Engineers is scaled down. So even if you were to build, you know, the Donager in here, it would not be a one-to-one recreation. One-to-one recreations of ships in Space Engineers generally do not work very well. Next up is the Enforcer class. This is a ship I actually designed. The purpose of this ship is to be mass printable and mass producible, to be able to, you know, enforce the Voltaire Collective's will across the solar system. This is just a gunship. It has a ton of PDCs. You know, these are belter PDCs, so they're not incredible, but with this many, it should have pretty good torpedo defense, and of course, have lots of torpedoes strapped to the side. If you watch my weapons video, you know that these ramshackle belter torpedoes have to be hand loaded, so you want a lot of them so you don't have to reload them very often because it does take time. You have to go one by one and reload all of these torpedoes, and you can only carry 1 torpedo in your inventory at once. And of course at the front we have a grappling arm. This is a unique block that was custom built for the server. It allows you to landing gear blocks or ships that are 5 or 6 blocks away from you instead of being right up on you. It allows you to, you know, deal with desync and also deal with some other stuff. And then of course here's the top and the airlock right there. Gonna take a look inside. You can see that it's a pretty modest interior. A lot of these ships have really modest interiors because, like I said, building one-to-one is kind of impossible in Space Engineers. Have a nice little galley, armory, survival kit area, which I think is pretty cool. And then of course moving down into the CIC, it's just a single cockpit strapped to the floor. One last thing that I love to point out to this ship is how big the Epstein drive is compared to the ship. We constantly refer to this as a Coke can strapped to a rocket engine because it has such incredible amounts of speed, but of course since it only has 1 Epstein drive, the redundancy is pretty bad. Next up is the Dutchman class. This is another gunship that has a nice grappling hook on the front with lots of torpedoes and lots of PDCs, not quite as many as the Enforcer, but this is faster than the Enforcer, so it can move faster and out accelerate its enemies if it needs to. This was actually based on the concept art for the Granicus, which is one of Marco Inaros's ships in the show, and it's actually shown in the show a couple times. If you go Google it, you'll see some cool concept art for it that I based this ship off of. It has 4 Epstein drives in the back with some PDCs facing backwards. These are super firing PDCs, which means they can fire over the front of the whole ship. So the rear PDCs are the most elevated, allowing all PDCs to fire forward at once, which is pretty cool. These are the Tachi drives from the server, allowing for some nice acceleration. And of course, moving over the top, you have lots of beams, which are a staple of Belter ships. The fuselage section, which a lot of the RCS is housed in, and then of course the airlock and connector. One thing that's really cool about this ship is that you have these interior torpedo bays. So if you have someone who's riding as a second seater, they can actually load and reload these torpedoes as you fire them. So there's a seat for them right there. Then you would go through this door and quickly load these torpedoes. It allows you to do this without having to stop combat, and so really just allowing for that multi-crew functionality. Next up is a UNN Frigate ship. So in the show, they show a lot of the Leonidas class and the Truman class, which are large ships, battleships and dreadnoughts. But what they don't show a lot of is smaller ships like corvettes and frigates and cruisers. So this is a ship that is based on some concept art that was done for the UNN Escort frigate. It was taken and turned into a space engineer's ship. It features a lot of UNN trademarks, like that huge extended section at the front, and then also large boxy sections as opposed to the MCRN, who have nice smooth shaped hulls. One thing to note about this ship is it has really good rear facing PDCs. There are 8 of them facing backwards. So if you upgrade these from, Belter PDCs to UNN PDCs, you'd have incredible coverage facing backwards. This allows you to run from your enemies if you need to in a tactical retreat. There's also a mounted railgun at the front, which allows you to fire forward. Unfortunately, it cannot fire backwards at all angles, but only a certain angle. One thing that's really cool about this ship is it does have a hangar on the bottom for a skiff, so you can have a mining skiff, or you can have a salvage skiff here that sits in the hangar and rides along with you. Of course, it can get pretty exposed, so if it gets shot with a railgun, that skiff is gone and could explode inside your hangar, creating a bunch of debris and destroying your ship. But if you are staying clear of your enemy's firing lines, this is a great thing to have in all of your ships. Next up is the Phoenix class. This is a ship designed for the Laconian Navy. Laconia is a faction on server, one of the longest and biggest factions that exists on the server, and of course they have beautiful ships. I had to pull a favor to get the blueprint for this one to show you guys. You notice it has a ton of PDCs, just incredible PDC coverage. Really big Epstein drives in the back, so it's incredibly fast. And of course it has dual MCRN railguns, which are hyper accurate and can recharge in 8 to 10 seconds and just absolutely decimate your enemies. Really good looking drive section. As we come over the top, you can see there are some rear facing PDCs to fend off pursuing torpedoes, and of course a super firing PDC at the top that has an incredible arc of fire, being able to shoot basically anything that's coming on this side of the ship. You see again those dual MCRN PDCs. There is a hangar bay. There's actually 2 hangar bays on this ship, and then of course the airlock at the top. At the front, you can see the torpedo launchers. So these have 8 torpedo launchers, so you can fire 8 torpedoes at once. And then, of course, these are quick reloading, so you can fire, 16, 32 torpedoes at once, which is absolutely crazy. And of course, a grappling hook on the front. Even the Laconian Navy is not opposed to salvaging and scrapping the corpses of their enemies. We're going to take a look inside here, and actually later in the video we will go into an in-depth interior look on how to build vertical interiors like the Expanse, but just look at the absolutely gorgeous hangar section on this. Dual hangars facing both left and right with a nice control room up at the top, and of course the little grinding skiff. Just an absolutely great looking ship going up to the CIC. You know, this is probably one of my favorite CICs I've ever seen. Looks very Martian, very inner, very advanced, and just a great ship overall. Incredible design. Next, we're going to move into some freighters. So these are non-combat ships. These are for logistical operations on the Expanse server. Logistics are really important, just like in the show and books themselves. This is the Grave Onus by Mad Gosu. This is a really, really beautiful looking belter style cargo ship. You know, it has 24 large cargos. So it's able to transport a ton of ore and a ton of cargo at once. And of course has that massive drive cone on the end to propel the huge weight that you're gonna have when you're transporting a full load with this thing. It has exposed cargoes because if you get caught by a combat ship when you're in a freighter, it really doesn't matter. You're so heavy you cannot outrun them. It is best to either have an escort or to not be found by one of your enemies when you are transporting cargo. Next up is the Stork Heavy Freighter. This is designed by Drew720. Again, he is an admin on the server and likes to create public blueprints for people to use. This blueprint will be linked in the description of this video for those of you to go check out. This thing has 36 large cargos, and he says it's primarily designed to haul ice. It can fit in the series docks, and of course can make the trip out to the ring gate to sell ice at Medina. This thing is absolutely massive. It has huge drive shrouds, which I think are really cool. A lot of people don't do drive shrouds on this server, but Drew decided to on this one, which I think was a really great decision. And of course it has 4 Tachi and 4 Morrigan drives. It's an absolutely great drive section on the back of this thing, like a true work of art. Coming over the top, you can see there's a few PDC mounts, but like I said before, if you get caught in a freighter by a combat ship, you're pretty much done for anyways. A couple different connectors at different heights for the different trade stations, and then going inside, it has a pretty light interior. Freighters really don't have a lot of interior space built in them because mostly their space is used for cargo. This has a couple different levels, you know, has a little kitchenette, has a little survival kit, and then coming down to the bottom here, you can see that it has a nice little embedded cockpit for a single driver, and then a viewing area for you to kind of view the cargo and view the trade station as you hook up to it. So one thing that's completely unique about this server that a lot of the players actually do is build vertical interiors in their ships. In the show, the ships have thrust gravity, so you only have gravity when you are under thrust. Of course, we cannot do that here, but because of that, that makes it so all surfaces that you walk on are, you know, directly above the drive cone, giving you that gravitational thrust gravity. So you can see here, this is one of the ships I've broken out, kind of giving you a nice little view inside of the ship. You can see how the decks are broken out. You know, you have the crew galley, you have storage, you have the CIC at the top, etc. A nice little airlock at the bottom, and of course that hangar access on the side. Coming up through here again, just giving you a nice little show off of everything. Crew quarters, CIC at the very top, underneath the railgun with the heaviest amount of armor. Drew also gave me permission to do a cutaway of his ship. His interiors are absolutely beautiful. Drew's an incredible builder. You can see you have the dual hangar bays in the bottom with the control area. You have the incredibly good looking CSC. I'm going to come in here to give you a better look. Multiple combat stations and control stations. And then of course a cockpit in the bottom for the pilot. And then you just have some general RP stuff up here like bunks and general crew quarters. You know, zooming out, you can see there are multiple airlocks on each side that access, you know, the medical bay, etc. And then coming back down, you can see the grinder skiff that he keeps in the hangars, allowing him to salvage NPCs he's fighting or even other enemy players. Coming into the staircase, it's hard to cut away this part, but you can see that this is how you get around the whole ship. Nice, actually usable staircase. Instead of a elevator, so when you're at thrust you can actually use the staircase, because when you're at thrust your jetpack is kind of useless. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. A lot of people have reached out to me about ship designing on this server because it's so unique compared to normal Space Engineers servers. I will be doing more of these videos breaking down ships and kind of looking at them. because there are many people who have reached out to me about showing off their ships in these videos. But I just want to be upfront that a lot of these are not available for distribution to the general public. This is a 24/7 online server with large factions engaging in PvP and politics, and I have earned the trust of a lot of players to be able to show off these designs, but a lot of them are not available for publishing to the workshop. I hope you enjoyed the video, and there are actually links to a few of these ships down in the description for public use on the server, and just for you to look at if you're not playing on the server. If you want to play on the server, there's also a link in the description for the server IP and the Discord, which is really important for this server. Thanks for watching.